1, 2. We're done with that. One, two. We are gifts and we are blessings. We are history in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. Ledor vador nagi god lecha. Ledor vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Ledor vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey, that we carry in our hearts. From the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part, we are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way. And the words that bring us meaning, we will have the chance to say. L'dor vador nagid god lecha. L'dor vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, L'dor vador, these lips will praise your name.
Well, Chag Sameach, everyone.
Chag Sameach.
And Mazel Tov on this wonderful occasion. Take a deep breath. It feels good in so many ways to be home, to be together, to celebrate these life's moments in which we can watch our young people as they grow. 14 months have gone by since our young people have been together in the same room and seen each other. And there is nothing like hearing our young people kibitz and talk and enjoy each other's presence and come together for something that is greater than any one individual is on their own. As we celebrate the fact that we can come together as community and be together and celebrate Torah, but also celebrate those who uplift Torah. It is like seeing light emerge once again. And though we were outside just moments ago, taking our confirmation photo and watching the sun move behind the trees, it almost felt a little like a sunrise, and watching the sun ascend and watching that light emit throughout our hearts and throughout our communities. So I'm going to invite all of you who are here with us in our congregation, if you have, hopefully you have a siddur or took one of the pamphlets that are at the back of the room. If you did not get one, please do. For those of you who are here as parents, and I know that there are grandparents that are watching on as well, and these words should be reflected in your heart as well. I'd like to invite all of the parents to rise now as we say these words on the occasion of our young people ascending like the light to become confirmands. Let's read together. Source of love and life, to thee we look for guidance on this sacred occasion. Our hearts are filled with gratitude as we behold our children grown in strength and understanding, grown as we had hoped in the beauty of holiness. We praise thee, our God, that thou hast sustained us and our children and enabled us to reach this day. We know that this confirmation is but the beginning of the march to noble manhood and womanhood. In the critical years that are to follow, our children will be in greater need of help. Grant us, we pray thee, the vision that will enable us to understand them. Give us the light of youth that we may be sympathetic companions in their dreams. Teach us to discipline our lives that we may be constant examples of high and purposeful living. And guard these, our children, O our God. Spare them not the trials of youth, but despair and disillusionment which may accompany these trials. Be with them to hallow their labor and make it worthy before thee. Establish the work of our hands, yea, the work of our hands, establish thou it. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated.
As these festival candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom Tov.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of the festival. I've been attending Congregation Shalom for my entire life. Starting from the time of my baby naming, it has been such an integral part of myself as a Jew as well as a person for as long as I can remember. I still have memories of bagels, books, and babies, temple for toddlers as a kindergartner, all the way through Sunday school and Hebrew school. As I have grown with a person, Congregation Shalom has grown with me spiritually as well. Without the guidance of my teachers and all the clergy I have had known throughout my schooling here, I would not be the same person who stands before you today. My family also plays a large role in my love for being Jewish and family traditions. For a bar mitzvah, I picked out a talit that I loved and I felt fit my personality perfectly. When I showed it to my grandfather and he showed me his, they turned out to be the exact same. This is a very meaningful memory to me that I'll never forget. As my youth education is winding down in Shalom, I know my adult education is only just beginning. Later on in the service, I'll be reading a verse of the 10 Commandments, more specifically the third commandment, thou shalt not use God's name in vain. God wants to preserve his rightful place as the one and only God, and to never be replaced or compared to anyone or anything else. This relates to my time at Shalom in the way of the knowledge that I have learned, never being replaced, redone, or forgotten. Thank you very much.
We now rise for the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol am v'romamanu mikol lashon v'kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu Be'ahava moadim lesimcha, chagim uzmanim lesason, et yom chag hashvuot hazeh. Zeman matan toratenu mikra kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, u'moadei kodshecha b'simcha u'b'sason hincha letanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh Yisrael ve'hazmanim. L'chaim, Chag Sameach.
Just as our cups are overflowing with blessings, our young people are going to take this moment to recite the Hinenu Muchan, a prayer that helps us prepare for these moments. Hinenu, here we are.
Standing here today, we recognize the generations that stood before us. We have learned of their heartbreaks and their joys. We have learned of their challenges and their triumphs. Now new responsibilities are being passed to us, and we are ready. We are the next link in a sacred chain of tradition. And today we say before friends, and today we say before family, here we are. You may be seated. Hello and happy Shavuot. My name is Haley Shama and I'm a part of last year's confirmation class. For as long as I can remember, I have been proud about showing my Jewish identity and interacting with my Judaism. Both in and out of Jewish spaces, I am always my own authentic Jewish self. One way I show this is by wearing my talit during services. I bought my talit during a trip to Israel when I was in 4th grade. I walked into a shop on Ben Yehuda, and within 5 minutes, I had made my choice. I'm a very indecisive person, but I never wavered in my decision to take this particular talit. For me, my talit is a link to my Jewish ancestry. From the moment I put it on, I feel surrounded by my matriarchs and patriarchs. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, and also my great-grandparents, Harriet, Oscar, Eleanor, Mort, Max, Belle, Esther, and Abraham. Even though it is just a piece of cloth, I feel cloaked in wisdom and faith. My talit also reminds me of my commitment to the Jewish value of tikkun olam. Part of being Jewish is answering the call to stand up against injustice. In this day and age, loving others and fighting against hate is especially important. Lasting change takes time, so we also must continuously fight for what is right. I learned this lesson when I completed my bat mitzvah project. I committed to making 12 quilts and donating them to Children's Hospital. There were many times I wanted to quit, but I persevered, and 2 years later, I finished. Change takes time, but it is our responsibility as Jews to stick with it and constantly fight for those who need it. I am so proud to be standing here in my talit as a confirmation student, but this does not mark the end of my Jewish journey. My talit will follow me to college in a year, adulthood, and beyond. I look forward to continuing my learning, as well as my commitment to help those who need it. We may now turn to the Shehecheyanu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
This year, I learned more about Judaism and how others follow it. For a long time, I struggled with the idea of God, and I learned this year that I don't necessarily need to believe in God to be a good Jew. Questioning and open dialogue are part of continuing my Jewish education and growing as a Jewish adult. Judaism, in my eyes, means that you should have good morals and be a good person. That is why celebrating Shabbat is important, since you take a break from the working week and take time to reflect on what you can do better next week. I also think it's important to have a supportive community to lean on, which is what I find at Shalom. I have been a member at Shalom since I was 5 months old, and this community has instilled those values in me and give me support, guidance, and an extended family that I will always cherish. I think overall as a Jew, we should focus on being kind to others, being a good person, and giving back to the community. As I move into my adult life, I will carry these values with me and try to do my part to repair the world, spread kindness and light while celebrating the Jewish values I learned at Congregation Shalom. Let us consider words to live by on page 3. Alelu devarim she'ein lahem shi'ur ve'elu hein. These are the obligation without measure, whose reward is without measure. They nourish us in this world and help us to create the world to come. To honor father and mother, to perform acts of love and kindness, to attend the house of study in the morning and the evening, to welcome the stranger, to visit the sick, to provide for the bride and groom, to keep faith with those who sleep in the dust, to pray with sincerity, to make peace where there is strife, and the study of Torah is equal to them all, because it leads to them all.
My favorite part of any service is the stories, whether they be sermons from the rabbi or during the high holidays, stories that are in the book. When I was younger and impatient, I would occupy myself during the high holidays by flipping through the books to find a new story to read. I know I should have been paying attention, and I did sometimes. Today, of course, I'm attentive during these services, but I was an energetic child, and the stories were always interesting. The story I read the most was the story of Abraham and his son Isaac. in which Abraham is told to sacrifice Isaac to God. It is only at the last possible moment does an angel appear and stop him, informing him that his son doesn't need to be harmed. It was the easiest story to find, as it was the closest to the beginning, and I didn't care to flip past it because I forgot the story every year. When I was little, I never could understand why someone would do that. As I grew older, I came to understand that God did not want Abraham to sacrifice his child, like many did in that time. Rather, God wanted to show Abraham to show love and mercy just like God does. The high holiday stories were not the only ones that stuck with me. The most prominent sermon for me was when Rabbi Noah shared a photo of the children from the Jewish day school walking in the snow. They had to evacuate the school after a bomb threat. They were flanked on either side by their teachers as they walked through the snow. But the dark tone of the sermon was flipped on its head at the end. Those kids went running happily into their parents' arms, and I was reminded of the joy in the world and how everything will be okay. Everything was okay for Abraham and Isaac, and so is everything okay for the Jewish day school. And the story of the Jewish people is long and still happily continuing today. So just as the Jewish story continues, mine continues as well. Confirmation is another joyous step for me in my story. Please rise for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahaveta et Adonai Elohecha, B'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'keshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu le'totafot bein einecha u'chetavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Just like many others here, I grew up with Judaism. However, I wouldn't call myself a really devoted person. What I do know is I value the many teachings that Judaism gives us. To me, the lessons we learn here are essential to a good and fulfilling life. Therefore, I would like to continue learning so I can become a more wise and virtuous person.
Zion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael, b'kedushato.
This is a covenant that binds Israel to the one eternal God.
This is the Torah, a light for our eyes, a lamp for our way.
It has been told to you what is good and what the Eternal One demands of you.
To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly in our
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti, unerom lema Shemo yachdav.
Please be seated. As we now prepare to read a portion of our Torah, the Ten Commandments, let's take a moment to think about what a commandment, a mitzvah, truly is. Young children often learn that a mitzvah is a good deed. Our confirmation students have learned throughout their dedication to Jewish study that a mitzvah is much greater than a good deed. A mitzvah is a sacred responsibility, a call to action, a call similar to the calls our ancestors heard from the divine time and time again. When we perform mitzvot, it is as though we are declaring, Hineni, here I am, ready to rise up to my potential and make this world a better place. As we read the Ten Commandments, may our confirmation students, as well as our entire community, hear this sacred call. May we be inspired to walk in the footsteps of our ancestors, as well as carve our own unique paths, using the Torah, our mitzvot, and our beautiful, rich tradition to act with righteousness and loving kindness. Please join me now. Together we will say the blessing before the reading of Torah on page 6. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Vaydaber Elohim et kol hadevarim ha'ele lemor. Anochi Adonai Elohecha, asher hotzeiticha, me'eretz Mitzrayim, mi'beit avadim.
Lo, Elohecha, Elohim achirim al panai.
Lo, te'aseh le'ach v'esel v'kol temunah, asher v'shamayim mimal, v'asher v'aretz mitachat, v'asher v'mayim mitachat le'aretz. Lo tishtachaveh lahem v'lo te'avdem, ki Anochi Adonai Elohecha Elkanah Pokei Avon Avot Abanim Al Shleshim V'al Ribeim Lesonai.
V'os chesed la'alafim la'ohabai u'shomrei mitzvotai.
Lo tisa et shem Adonai Elohecha lashav, ki lo yenake Adonai et asher yisa et shmo lashav.
Zahor et Yom HaShabbat lekadesho, Sheshet Yamim ta'avod, ve'asita kol melachtecha.
ויום השביעי שבת, לאדוני אלוהיך, לא תעשה כל מלאכה, אתה ובנך וביתך, אבטך ואמתך ובהמתך, וגורך אשר בשעריך.
כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, את היום ואת כל אשר בם, וינח ביום השביעי. על כן בירך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו.
כבד את אביך ואת אמך, למען יאריכון ימיך על האדמה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך.
לא תרצח, לא תנאף, לא תגנוב, לא תענת לרעך את שקר.
לא תחמוד בית רעך, לא תחמוד אשת רעך, ועבדו ואמתו ושורו וחמורו וכל אשר לרעך.
I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not take the name of Adonai your God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbors. You shall not covet. These are the laws of our faith. Tonight we accept them as the laws of our life.
Please join us in the blessing after the Torah reading. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
My name is Justin Cohn, and I would like to reflect on my unforgettable journey through religious school at Congregation Shalom.
First, I have learned that it is very important to attend high holidays, read and chant prayers during weekly Sunday services, and to celebrate our Jewish history with our friends and family. Rosh Hashanah resonates with me the most because it is the start of a happy, healthy, and sweet new year, no matter what may happened in the past. I like how everyone is so optimistic. Additionally, the Shema Yisrael is the most meaningful prayer to me because it reminds us that there is only one God. I appreciate how we can chant it in numerous ways. I hold this prayer close to my heart because it is a reminder of our sacred faith. Also, I would like to take the time to recognize the important Jewish values I have learned throughout my years at Congregation Shalom. One of them being achrut, or responsibility. As Jews, it is critical we take ownership of our actions. We strive to help the community and make it a better place. Next, the value I cherish most is kavod, or respect. We cannot live in peace unless we respect one another, including our siblings, parents, peers, teachers, elders, and even strangers. Everyone comes from diverse paths, and different people value different things. Although we might not understand why people do the things they do, we must respect one another because it will make the world a better place. I admire that the Jewish people give everyone the opportunity to be heard and express themselves. With this in mind, one of the most impactful memories at Congregation Shalom was my bar mitzvah, because I got to do tikkun olam, or mend the world. Summer after summer, I donate my time to teach the young children at Mequon Jewish Preschool new skills like sports or cooking. I value the special time I share with them because I know that I get the privilege to teach the new generation how to live their best lives. No matter who they want to be in the world, I want them to know they are perfect in every possible way. They should not have to change to meet others' expectations as long as they are happy and proud to be their Jewish selves. Lastly, I'd like to thank my siblings, parents, friends, and teachers for helping me discover my Jewish identity. Through the happy times and through the struggles, I knew I always had people who loved me unconditionally. I hope everyone experiences a similar journey at Congregation Shalom as I did. Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Hannah Breslow, and I was a confirmation student last year. My Jewish journey started here at Congregation Shalom every Sunday. I experienced lots of great teachers who loved to pass on the knowledge, traditions, and culture of Judaism to me. I want to thank all of my previous teachers. Then it was lots of years of family Hebrew with my sister and my mom. Thank you to Rabbi Marcy and Ms. Rosengarten for all of your help. My bat mitzvah was the next step as I stood on the bima with Rabbi Noah and my family, feeling very grateful for that celebration. Taking in new responsibilities as a madraha and working my way to this confirmation has been rewarding in many ways. I've learned Jewish values that play a role in my everyday life, like kindness, community, and responsibility. These values have looked different over the years, but shine through in my friendships, schoolwork, and my desire to build a better world. I'm not usually surrounded by other Jews, so it was always comforting to come to Sunday school and temple events, to be in an environment with my Jewish family of teachers, classmates, and congregants. My Judaism is a foundation for me to make my way in the world, always remembering to remain humble and kind to others. It is my pride to carry on traditions learned from my great mother, a Holocaust survivor, and my grandmother, who shouldered the responsibility to keep memories and traditions at the forefront of our family. I am deeply grateful that I had this journey with all of you. I look forward to creating many more memories at celebrations and holidays, carrying on traditions of the past, and living a life filled with opportunity. Thank you.
On Shavuot, we read from Megillat Ruth, the scroll of Ruth. Ruth's story is about one simple family trying to make it amongst very difficult personal circumstances. What's notable about this story is that again and again we find Ruth, Naomi, and Boaz treating each other with chesed, with loving kindness, kindness for its own sake, even though it wasn't required of them. It's appropriate that we read Ruth's story on Shavuot because while the laws and ordinances of Torah are essential, they're not enough on their own. We need chesed in our world. We need to act with loving kindness for its own sake. I invite you to join with us in the blessings for the Haftorah, which can be found on page 12.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nevi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai Habocher baTorah uv Moshe avdo uv Yisrael amo uv inviei ha'emet v'tzedek Vatisena kolan vativkena od Vatishak orpa lachamota verut dav kapa Vatomer hine shava v'yimteich el ama ve'el Eloheha shuvi acharei v'yimteich Vatomer rut al tifkivi Le'ozveich lashuv me'acharayich Ki el asher telchi eleich Uva asher talini alin Ameich ami Velohayich Elohai Ba'asher tamuti amut V'sham ekaver ko Ya'aseh Adonai li v'cho Yosif Ki hamavet yafrid beini uveneich
At this they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her. But Ruth replied, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayim, shekol devarav, emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'nevi'im ve'al yom chag ha'shavuot hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu lesason u'lesimcha lechavod ultifaret al ha'kol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach u'mevarechim otach Yitbarach Shimcha befi kol chai tamid leolam va'ed Baruch ata Adonai Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazemanim Amen.
In the past few years, Judaism has become increasingly more important to me and has taken up more of my identity. As I've learned more about politics, explored my beliefs, and learned about myself as a young adult, I've identified with many aspects of Judaism and found many traditions that I want to take with me into adulthood. From valued time with family over holidays to finding pieces of text and commandments that I want to continuously fulfill, my journey through connection to Judaism is continuing and growing every day. I love my Mimi and Lita's brisket, and I love being the most oblivious person when finding the afikomen, and I will always want those treasured Jewish traditions to stay in my life and be passed down to my future family. Most importantly, though, I want to keep my Jewish morals and ways of life in my family. Love thy father and mother, do not oppress the weak, do not stand idly by if someone's life is in danger, and never panic and retreat during battle. That last commandment does not have to be an actual battle, but it can be whatever challenge you are facing in your life, and that is why I identify so strongly with it. I will fight my battles head on and help those who are endangered, stand for those who cannot stand for themselves, and to always love my parents, who have done more than I could ever thank them for. In the process of finding myself as a Jewish teenager, I found it difficult to grapple with the fact that I will never be able to be the perfect Jew. Sometimes I wear men's clothes, which let me be very clear, are not only men's clothes, as we more commonly call them now, pants. I've been tempted to take my revenge, and I'll admit I don't always eat kosher, but knowing that I'm trying my very hardest to be the best Jew I can is enough. At least I think it is. Judaism is so important to me, and it will always be. It's what I believe. It's the necklace that I wear over my heart. It's the little Alana that used to dress up as Esther for Purim. It's going to Asrui in the summertime. It's all around me, and having been born into Judaism is something that I am eternally grateful for. We turn to the statement of confirmation.
Now, our confirmands will recite the statement of confirmation in unison. O God, the guide and inspiration of all humanity, we thank you for teaching us the laws of life, and we rejoice that you have given us the power to choose how we shall live. We give thanks for the sages and teachers of our people who have brought us to a deeper understanding of our heritage. Help us, O God, to maintain that precious faith. As part of the chain of our tradition, we believe that we have a stake in the future of the world and in the role that our Judaism will play in our lives and in that world. We therefore confirm with all our mind, with all our strength, and with all our being, our commitment to our God, to our people Israel, and to our beloved Judaism. Amen.
When asked the question, what holiday do I connect with the most, I didn't immediately jump to it. I debated whether it was Passover with my family, Purim with my friends. However, after some reflection, I feel the most connected with Yom Kippur. The ability and opportunity to confess and apologize for your mistakes is not one that presents itself often, despite its absolute importance. All of us, as humans, need time to reflect, away from the rush of outside life. Yom Kippur is a powerful holiday with an important purpose. However, the reason I connect with it is more than that. The sense of unity and togetherness felt at high holiday services is one that is impossible to match, sharing the hunger of the fast, the burden of sins, and the awe of the shofar. It makes me feel safe and accepted. In this atmosphere, this connection would not be the same if it weren't for all the amazing people here at Shalom.
We now rise once again as we reflect upon the Torah and the Ark, as we turn to Eitz Chaim. Behold, the good doctrine has been given unto you, my Torah, forsake it not. For it is a tree of life to those who cling to it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace.
Eitz Chaim hi, lama chazikim ba, v'tomechea me'ushar, terachea Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu
You may be seated.
Hello, my name is Josh, and I am part of last year's confirmation class. When I reflect back on my years attending Shalom, one memory that stands out to me is my bar mitzvah. It was really a fun and challenging time. All the practice that went into it really paid off. I certainly couldn't have done it without the help of the rabbis, cantor, and my family. To me, I view Passover as one of the most important Jewish traditions. Passover is a time where we remember the Jews being freed from slavery. Although this isn't my favorite holiday, I still think it is important for us as Jews to reflect each year on this journey from slavery to freedom. The Mi Chamocha prayer is something that I find very meaningful in my life right now. The prayer recounts God's miraculous rescue of our ancestors from slavery in Egypt by splitting the sea and allowing them to pass unharmed to the other side. Just as Miriam stood at the shores as Adonai split the seas and led us to freedom, this resonates with me today as we are coming out of one of the most challenging times of our lives. This past year, we have experienced a loss and isolation, and in many ways, we are slaves to a global pandemic that kept us from our friends and our families. Today, by the grace of God, we are seeing vaccines, decreasing caseloads, and daily death tolls. This gives us hope once again as we see a sense of normalcy. We are being freed from the slavery of COVID-19. Again, we say, who is like you, Adonai? Who else could have guided us through this horrible time and has brought us comfort when we are at our lowest point? There is no one else than Adonai, our God. To me, I hold two Jewish values deep to my heart. One is lighting the Shabbat candles and participating in family services, and two is doing Havdalah on Saturdays. Growing up with a set of Jewish grandparents made me realize how important it is to take part in these two Jewish values. I have been inspired by some mitzvot that I have been a part of. One of which was giving underprivileged children the chance to celebrate Christmas, complete with a warm meal, games, books, and a visit from Santa, and a smile on their faces will stay with me forever. One mitzvot that I hope to do this summer and upcoming winter is to purchase meals from local restaurants and distribute them among our homeless population in our community.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you to all of our young people for inspiring us, just in the way that you walk through the world. In a moment such as this, you might be asking yourselves, as I am, where does the time go? Watching these young people standing on this bima, it's hard to describe after the 14 months that we've had. One of the strange effects of being physically distant over this year is seeing our young people back in our synagogue and seeing how much they've grown. They haven't just grown physically, but they have grown intellectually and spiritually. And for parents and grandparents, you might be asking yourselves, weren't we just holding these children in our arms? And I'm asking myself, wasn't I just helping these young people write their B'nai Mitzvah speeches? But this moment, as our young people become confirmands, is in so many ways timeless. And as you walk up and down our congregational hallways, you find images of our confirmands from years gone by, posing in pictures and smiling in what I can only imagine is hope in a beautiful future. It's a timeless moment as well, because it comes on Shavuot, a holiday in which we celebrate the giving of Torah. And this is the reason why we recite the Ten Commandments. There are many legends of the giving of the Ten Commandments, and one that is particularly meaningful. So there's a belief that all of us, every Jewish soul that ever lived or will live, stood together at Sinai And it was we, souls, collectively, that all accepted God's words in unison. These legends also present us with questions of choice. Reading the text and the interpretations, the choice to accept our Torah always seems to hang in the balance. Would we accept these commandments? Would we accept God's laws? One frightening midrash shares the image of Mount Sinai floating above our collective heads, with the implied knowledge that were we to decline the sacred gift, the mountain would fall down upon us. Today there is no mountain above our heads, no threat implied by accepting or rejecting the ethics, values, and commandments that have been passed through hands and hearts and minds of the generations before us, and now have been placed in our care. And yet these young people have made a choice. They chose to come and learn and teach and to fill their hearts and minds with words of Torah. They chose to learn, and many of them to teach those values to the next generation in our schools. They made a choice as free people to practice what they have been taught and guided to do. And this very fact is as startling and as miraculous as any divine miracle. As we look upon the world and the events that we see around us, the striving and troubles of our family across the sea, the striving and troubles of our neighbors and friends in our nation, the striving and troubles of the world, as we navigate events that test our humanity and our ability to cope, this miracle of our young people, like the generations who adorn our walls, ready to take up the mantle of their faith and tradition, their values and their hopes should not be simply passed over. Let us pause and reflect on the miracle that is before us and give thanks. So let us reflect on this blessing. Eternal our God, Master of all people and peoples, look upon our next generation and radiate your love down upon them like the sun amidst the promise of a new spring. May our young people be ever willing to stand for their most fundamental beliefs. In a world that can best be described as broken, may they bring wholeness. In a world that is filled with anger and enmity, may they bring peace. And may they, the spiritual inheritors of the traditions of our people, see the fulfillment of your promise, a world of holiness and a world filled with love. I'd like to call upon our clergy to offer now the threefold benediction of our people upon our young.
Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka.
May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God always smile upon you and bless you with God's choicest of blessings, the blessing of peace, the blessing of wholeness, the blessing of shalom.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'tet gedula le'yotzeh breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kimishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam. Va'anachnu kore'im umishtachavim umodim לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
We remain standing at this time as we think of those who have passed into life eternal. We don't do that. We pause now and reflect on these beautiful words as Zachary is going to lead us in prayer.
Yeah. Okay. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and the light up the universe with the joy of the holiness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו
We do continue to stand as we think of loved ones who have passed into life eternal. We mark the period of Shloshim for these dear members of our community. We think of Werner Benjamin, Mackenzie Clyde, Rabbi Morley Feinstein, Lorraine Greenberg, and Rachel Inselberg. If there are names that should be added to our Kaddish list, whether they be members of your family or friends who you're remembering at this time, or whether it's the yahrzeit of a loved one, please say those names of our loved one as I look in your loved ones as I look in your direction. May all the names and the memories of our loved ones be a blessing. And as we have mentioned the names of our loved ones, so too do we think of all those who have died due to war and or terrorism, all those who have died due to this terrible virus that has stricken our nation. We also think of all those who died due to the virus of racism. We think of all those who died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals, and we think of all those who perished during the Holocaust. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to words sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope, the Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah, v'ya'amad yivrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Ulamei Amaya. Yit Barach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal Shmei D'Kudusha B'richu. Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata. Tush Bechata V'nechemata. De'amiran B'alma V'yimru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the source of peace and comfort to all who mourn among us, and let us say, Amen. You may be seated, and in our tradition we always turn from sadness to joy, as we now have the opportunity to present our young people with gifts on behalf of our congregation and the certificates of their confirmation.
So you all know that we call ourselves the people of the book. And so we have for you your very own Tanakh. We hope that you will turn it and turn it and turn it again, that you will take it with you when you go to college, when you go to any new home that you move to. And not only will you take it with you, but you'll open it and you'll read it and you'll study it and think about it, and that your Judaism, wherever you go, will continue with you. So as I call out your names and the cantor will play beautiful music, I'll invite you to come up one at a time, grab your book, and then bring it back to your seat. And then during the recessional, just leave your book on your seat and you can come and get it later. And I just want to say again how proud we all are of each of you. It was a choice that you made to continue your Jewish education, and we are so happy that you did, and truly we're beaming with pride. So we call on Hannah Breslow. Joshua Hirsch. Jonah Miller. Eugene Nelson. Dylan Nolte. Justin Cohn. Zachary Bryn. Haley Shama. Sophie Schrader. Elliot Richer. And Alana Willinson.
We now rise as our confirmands will recess from the sanctuary.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol anshama tehallel, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol anshama tehallel, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Chag sameach, lai la 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 la. Chag sameach, lai la 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 la. Shiru, 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 chag sameach, lai la 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 la. Shiru, 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 chag sameach, la 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 la. Chag sameach, lai la 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 la. Chag sameach, lai la 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 la. Mazal tov.
Mazel tov, families. On your way out, there are boxes of Shavuot desserts for you to take home for you and your families with your names on it, as well as your children's union grams from the Women of Shalom. Mazel tov to everyone. And grab their books.